Welcome to the Friday at 4 podcast series with your host Charles Luttrell and co-host Steve Kent.
Rachel, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's so good to be here with you.
Yeah, I appreciate this. Thanks for stepping in. Steve is traveling and I think he's going to Arizona. I think that's where he said he was headed. So, yeah,
Nice.
so he can't be here. So, thank you for stepping in and filling the shoes.
I'm excited. I was excited to get the invite. I know I've been kind of, heads down working on stuff and it's really good to be back. I know the
Yeah,
podcast has really taken off. So I
yeah, I
feel like
appreciate
I'm
you.
visiting celebrities over here now.
I appreciate you. You can come on anytime, any Friday with us. It doesn't matter. You don't need an invite. You're always invited.
Thank you. I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and segue into this conversation you want to have. Let's talk about
Yeah.
what's on your mind this week.
I would love that. So, as you know, I am a career coach who specializes in working with ADHD women who are typically, mid-career, like over 40. And I've been watching the weird job market like everybody else and going, oh my God, what's going on? I'm seeing this trend where a lot of those roles in the middle, those like middle management, upper management roles, they're kind of the first ones getting cut a lot of the times, or even they are the roles that are getting cut. Like I think Microsoft cut thousands of jobs a couple of times this year already, and a lot of the roles they cut were those ones in the middle. And so, yeah, that's one of the things that I've been looking at a lot and kind of something I've been posting about recently is kind of a series on like if you fall into that category of like my role is management or project management or one of those like coordination management type roles where I don't feel like I'm a doer exactly, but I've been really important to how the work gets done. And now I feel like I'm in jeopardy. I've been posting about what are some things you can do about that because I identify a lot with that since that's what my role was for years and years. And a lot of times once you get to be our age, like you naturally have worked your way up into a position like that because that's how it's been, right? For years
Yeah.
now. So yeah, it kind of feels like you've been encouraged to climb your way up this ladder and then you are shown the door.
It's interesting, right? How you spend 10, 15, 20 years to climb a corporate ladder just to get picked off in 24 hours.
It's,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's things are changing so rapidly right now,
Yeah.
also that I think faster than we've ever seen them change. And we've seen a lot of change in our lifetimes, especially. So I think it's just really scary for people that whether you're working or not working right now, I think it's really terrifying to contemplate what am I supposed to do right now about my job.
Yeah.
Um,
And not only that, right? You got people who, are the younger generations who are saying go to college, get a degree, and you get out and you get a
yes,
job, and
yes.
you're stuck with this 50, 60, $100,000 loan, and you can't get a job because, well, we're not hiring,
Yeah.
you
I
know?
really feel for the kids that are graduating right
Yeah.
now, like this spring, who it was a completely different situation when they started school 4 years ago. And now they're looking at, it's like 50% unemployment or something in computer science, which is a broad category, obviously, but
Yeah.
it's just so much harder to get hired for everyone. But when you're just starting out, it stunts your career and stunts your morale, it's just really discouraging. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's tough all around. And so one of the things I've been kind of trying to organize are some thoughts around, okay, what can you do? Because you it's not enough to just be like, woe is me, the job market's terrible, because you still have to pay rent or your mortgage or buy, kibble for the cat or pay your kids, tuition or whatever's going on, right? You have expenses.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so if you're up for it, I thought maybe we could have a conversation about that. And it also kind of segues into some things I'm starting to offer right now. Like, one of the things I'm doing is a course right now on, it's kind of like a real quick start for like, let's say you got laid off this morning when you went into work and you weren't expecting it, and none of your stuff is updated, right? And so now you're reeling from this terrible news. You're grieving the loss of your job, but you also need to get on the job market as soon as possible. That's a really tough situation. So I've put out this like really like quick course that's intended to help you get from, reeling in shock to you all your stuff is updated and you've applied to 3 jobs. You've been kind of walked through all of that step by step as part of this course because I know I would have loved to have something like that when I was having to start from scratch every time in my job searches.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I want to start with you really should get people who are watching this and anybody that I recommend to go to your website, rachelgaddiscoaching.com, and really sign up for your email because I love your emails. I read every one of them.
Thank you.
Yeah, I read every one of them and they're useful. Look, you gear them towards women. That's what your business market is. But I still read them and I can still get good information from them. You know, I'm amazed at the content you're putting out. So I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you,
Yeah,
Chuck. I really
yeah,
appreciate that. And I'll
absolutely.
tell you, I get clients who are men. I'll tell you that my ideal client might be ADHD women over 40, but I get all sorts, I get young men, I get older men, I get young women, it's kind of like all sorts. I just have to pick an area to kind of imagine that I'm writing to when I write the emails, but and so it
Yeah.
was easier to pick someone who was like me, right? That's kind of the easiest stretch. But
Well,
yeah,
yeah, because that's
I
who
love
you
writing it. Yeah,
yeah, because that's who you relate the most to, right? I think it's brilliant,
exactly,
because if you can
exactly.
relate to your audience, you're going to have a good content that you put out through these emails.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah,
a lot easier that way. And
yeah,
when I started out, I was nervous about writing emails and writing blogs, and that's become one of my favorite things. I love writing the emails and I love writing the blogs. So
yeah.
it's funny how that goes, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I got to tell you, I want people to know too that I signed up for an email marketing and I got denied. So I think I told you about that.
Oh
So
no, I didn't. I
yeah,
didn't know
so I don't do
that.
email
I can't believe
marketing.
that.
Yeah, I don't do email marketing because I got denied. I'm like, well, it doesn't make sense. You said my content isn't worthy of email marketing. That's kind of crazy, but okay. So I got discouraged from email marketing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, how fascinating. I wonder how they define it
I
then,
don't know.
because, sometimes people have weird definitions for that. When I started out, I thought I wasn't going to do an email list at all. And
Yeah,
then I finally realized I really wanted something that was my own, that wasn't
um,
owned by one of the social media networks that I
yeah,
was also going to be on.
yeah,
And that's turned out to be really important. And
yeah.
I've enjoyed it a lot more than I expected. So thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. It means a
Ah,
lot.
yeah, you're very welcome. So I'll put your link in the show notes, once this episode, I
Yeah.
post this Friday at 4 episode up, because I really think it's important to anybody watching this who is interested in, this topic today of, whatever we talk about in the next, 20 some minutes, 30 minutes, to really follow what you're giving because I think it's valuable. I really do.
Thank you. Well,
Yeah.
and for anyone who wants to sign up, I have this career fit snapshot that I created. That's like it's just a way to figure out, kind of make sense of what you feel like your actual skills are, your actual interests, kind of zoom out just a little bit and get a view of what you feel like your composite is coming together as. Because when you have got a lot of experience and a lot of different skills and a lot of different interests, But at the same time, your career path has kind of gone along this trajectory. Sometimes it's hard to separate what you have made your career doing from what all the possibilities are for you. And so that's what this is intended to uncover for you is what are all the possibilities, right? What could
Yeah.
you potentially do that you have forgotten is possible? So that is something that's available at rachelgaddiscoaching.com/guide, and we can put that link in the show notes too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, send it over to me and I'll put it in.
I will, yeah.
Yeah, I want to circle back though because I'm really curious of, because we were talking a little bit about what you do in the job market and feeling
Yeah.
bad for these kids who are graduating. Do you have like a top three or five things we could discuss about, you know, if you are fit in this job market, if you are looking, you're hunting, you can't find a job, you got
Yes.
laid off, you got fired, whatever the case may be,
Yes.
what are some
Yes.
things that you could give to our audience, about how to really stay focused, through your mindset, um,
Yeah.
what are some of the things that we could do, because these are weird times right now.
They are such weird times. And I love that question, Chuck, because it speaks to exactly the kind of thing I've been thinking about. And one of the things I keep coming back to is even though it's a really weird time right now, at base, some things never change. And one of the things that never changes is that people have businesses that they want to make money at. And when they're trying to figure out who to hire, they're trying to figure out who can I trust to do a good job? Who can I trust to bring in who will actually help my business make money? So whenever you're like distracted by how much things have changed and how it's a totally different world, like just try to remember that there's that through line. Like you could probably go back to ancient Rome or whatever, and like that never changes, right? All throughout time. So you can at least keep yourself a little bit grounded by just going, okay, like no matter what tech I'm using or what's happening in the world, that part doesn't change. And what I would say to people who are kind of in this like caught up in the churn, right? Which is all of us really. I would say look at your networks. If you don't have a network or you don't think you have a network, start building your network. LinkedIn, not that I'm here to shill for LinkedIn, but LinkedIn is a really great, easy place to start, building up that digital. I'm going to date myself by saying Rolodex, but that digital address book, right? Um, of
Rolodex.
like who you know. I know you know what I mean when I say
Oh
Rolodex.
yeah.
Yeah, so like if you've just graduated from school, I mean, man, add those professors in. Start getting any recommendations you can from internships or whatever. And the great thing about putting recommendations for you on LinkedIn rather than collecting them as letters of recommendation and stuff is that they are automatically verified when you add them on LinkedIn. So when like Chuck gives me a recommendation that's on LinkedIn, people see it and then they can click through on his name and look, oh, there's Chuck. Oh, this is all this stuff about Chuck. Chuck's a real person. Okay, now I can go back to Rachel and see who else had something to say about her. Like it's very transparent in a certain respect. Not that there aren't scammers, but like for the most part, they can kind of see who do I know that Chuck also knows. Like they can kind of see who you have in common. So it's great for that. It's also great for you can sort of decide what you want to look like on LinkedIn. So you can decide it's, you can call it personal branding, you can call it whatever you want, but it's that aspect of what do I want to look like on LinkedIn? I've had many previous professional lives. My last one right before this one was I was working as a Scrum Master and Agile delivery lead on tech teams. So when you went to my LinkedIn, like 3, 4 years ago, you would see that I was an agile delivery lead. I had all this agile lingo in my summary, and I had all these agile and, project management groups and tech groups and AWS groups. And there was, all this stuff like that that I belonged to, and all these people like that I followed. And it was just very like, you looked at that profile and you were like, oh, okay, I know what she does. I know what her top skills are. I know that if I want somebody agile, I would call her. when I decided to start this business, which is a coaching business and not specifically related to Agile, I had to make a decision. Do I change my LinkedIn profile and fully commit to this, or do I keep it? Like, it was actually kind of hard to make the decision to rebrand my LinkedIn profile because I'd spent a lot of years building it up. But in the end, I did. So I took myself out of a lot of those LinkedIn groups I was in. I changed all the verbiage, in my summaries and descriptions. I sort of unfollowed a lot of people and followed different people. I changed a lot of things, in other words. And now when you go to my profile on LinkedIn, and I would encourage people to do this, right, who are on this call, when you look at me on LinkedIn, I don't look like an agile delivery lead anymore. You can go through my history and see what I used to do, but now I look like what I do now. And I did
I
that
think
very,
that's important,
very
right?
much. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's important, right? That you're staying up with the times, right? So you were agile, you were AWS, now you're
Right.
Rachel Gaddis coaching. You
Right.
update your profile to show that, although we can still see your history. But it's good that you're up to date and we're following the real Rachel, you know?
I would go one step further, Chuck, and I would say you have to almost stay one step ahead of yourself on
Mm,
that. So I did that early on. So I did it even before I felt 100% confident that I fit into those shoes. You know what
mhm,
I mean? So like if I decided that, say that I graduate from college this year and what I want is a role working at a bank, like a bank working as an analyst or something. And I haven't had a job like that yet. But I really want to get a job like that. I have a great education that's perfect for it. I have an internship that's good for it. And I have lots and lots of skills that make me a great fit. I don't know exactly how to get a job like that. I've applied to a bunch and haven't gotten it, right? This is a perfect example. So what you do is you go and you find a bunch of people who have the job that you want to get. They have it right now. And you look at all of their profiles and you see what types of groups are they in? What types of language are they using to describe themselves? What things can you say that are true about yourself? But, like try to craft a profile for yourself that looks like what someone would expect to see for an analyst, an entry-level analyst at a bank.
right. That's such great advice, and I'm glad you mentioned that because, like you said, right, you did it before you even fully committed to being this coach. And I kind of did the same thing with my LinkedIn profile. I changed a little bit,
Yeah.
going from a customer service supervisor to Q.A.C analyst. And I just put it out there like, this is what I'm doing. And I dropped all the mystery shopping elements and put in the quality
Right.
assurance
You have
and
to
the
commit.
podcasting, Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. Very
Well,
important.
and otherwise people are confused because they don't know what
Yeah.
you are. If you try to say your five things, then they don't know what to do with that.
I learned that early on when I started getting into the show I do and the podcast. And I'm doing 16 different things. Like, wait a minute, you got to pick a couple of things that you're doing, Chuck.
You have to pick, or you have to call it something that's an umbrella that can
Yeah.
cover all of the 16 things that you like to do, which is also valid. But
Yeah.
yeah,
But
so those are my
what's
two things. Is like your network, like figure out who you know who can help you, right? And
yeah,
aggressively add people to your network because that's more people that you can know who can help you. And make sure you're really conscious about that online persona that you're putting out there.
yeah. That's very, very smart. That's something I haven't done yet is aggressively add people because I'm still figuring out who do I add, you know?
Don't worry so much about that part. Add
Yeah,
everybody. Just add everybody. And
yeah.
if there's ever anybody that you add that you're like, man, I wish I hadn't added that person, go unadd them. Go remove them. It's not like they get a
Remove.
message from LinkedIn saying, Chuck just, removed you. He's such a jerk, go
Right,
tell him, go tell him what you think of that. They don't get notified at all. It's not a
right.
big deal.
You want to send feedback to Chuck since he removed
Yeah,
you?
go tell him what you think. Go post a note about
Right,
him here that goes to the whole world. No, it doesn't.
right. That's such great advice, because I think, you're transitioning from your old role that you just lost into something new. So you
Hmm.
start at LinkedIn, you build your profile, you're changing your summary, you're changing your what you're doing, your
Yes.
about, and that really helps the algorithm one, and helps people who are looking at you what you do and where can you
Yeah,
fit in their company if
exactly.
they're looking at you, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and look, people are not going out there and looking at you. Like, let's not kid ourselves. Nobody is out there looking at all the LinkedIn profiles, most likely. But what you can do is you can try to, LinkedIn is about being findable. It's about looking like the thing that they are hoping to find when they go and search for, um, candidates for their junior analyst role based in uh, Sacramento or whatever, right?
Right. Yeah.
So you want to become increasingly findable for the thing that you want to be findable for.
Yeah.
And you also want to make sure that you have a really strong active network. And that's not just about adding people to your connections in LinkedIn. It's also about talking to those people. It's about, pinging people sometimes and saying like, hey, I saw this and I thought of you. Like, it could be a good opportunity for you to do whatever. It's about actually thinking of stuff that could help people that you know and
Yeah.
putting it out there and letting them know that you thought of them. Because the more that your network hears from you, the more likely it is that they're going to think of you when they hear about something that might be perfect for you.
Yeah. So true. Yeah. Keep it going. Keep it going. Good information. I love it. Well, I'm learning from this as well because, I'm not on LinkedIn a lot, which I think I should be. I'm getting better at it, but it's not a major platform. I'm trying to find how to work each platform with my social media post. And that's a
Yeah.
whole other
Well,
thing,
YouTube has
it's,
been huge for you, though. I
yeah.
mean, you're doing very well on YouTube. I haven't really done anything on YouTube. And
Mm,
that's not to say that I never would, but it just hasn't been, and it makes a lot of sense, right? When you hear I'm a career coach and I'm talking to people who are working and maybe unhappy in their jobs, well, then it makes sense that I would be on LinkedIn. But for you, I don't know. I don't know if it makes sense for you to be super active on LinkedIn
yeah.
if you're talking to mostly business owners who may not be super active on LinkedIn. Like they might be
Hmm.
more active on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or something else. So,
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
have to, like you said, you have to go where your people are, and it
Yeah.
takes a little bit to figure that out. But when you're looking for a job, um, yeah. And I think the other thing I would tell people is don't waste your time sending job applications in because those, by the time they even get posted, they are, it's too late. It's already too late. What you want is you want to be talking to people who say to you, hey, um, actually, my manager just told me about an opening that will be coming up. If you want, I can find out, or I can take your resume to it or whatever. Like you want to be finding out before the jobs get listed because
Mm.
by the time they've been posted, it's too late. Like things are disappearing in certain sectors, things are disappearing too quickly once they get posted.
Yeah,
Or
that's
they're
a
claimed before they were posted. And I'm talking mostly about the white collar job market right now. I mean,
yeah.
other markets are a little different, but yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say it's specific job roles, right? Because I know, I've got experience from people who were saying that, a lot of jobs that are being posted, they're not even a real job. They're doing it just to fudge the numbers to say, oh, we posted these. Yes, we were hiring, but we're not hiring for these roles, which is
Well,
kind of
there's some
interesting.
of that,
Yeah.
and I think there's some of staffing agencies that post, I would call them almost like evergreen job listings so that
Yeah.
they can just kind of like trawl for talent and just like have it in their back pocket, and then they can just keep spamming you with job listings all year. But it's a losing proposition. It's a waste of your time and energy. And
Yeah,
it can be a real morale killer besides that. So when I work with clients, I tell them not to bother with that, to instead
yeah,
invest your time and energy kind of figuring out how you want to present yourself and then posting about things that make you sound more authoritative and expert in the thing that you want to get hired for, whatever that
yeah,
happens to be.
yeah,
And don't post about like how terrible the job market is. Nobody needs to hear about that. Everybody already knows. So
yeah,
if you're trying to get hired as an analyst, post about cool analyst stuff that you're thinking about or side projects you're working on. If you're trying to get hired as a video editor, post cool videos that you've actually edited, like,
yeah,
show don't tell in your posts.
yeah. Speaking of video editing, I have been roughly on editing my episode 7 that's coming at the end of the month.
Ah, that's great.
Yeah, yeah. I'm excited about this one because it was good. Yeah, I don't
I'm
know if you saw the
excited.
yeah, I don't know if you saw the post that I posted. So I visited 3 diners because this is a diner edition. And I visited
Yeah.
3 diners and I chose French toast to compare. And
I love French toast.
yeah,
That's my
it's
go-to.
one of my go-tos, one of my favorite, right? And it's amazing how if you look at the picture, right, and you compare the 3 pictures of the French toast, you would not believe which one was the winner. You would not believe it.
I can't wait to see that.
Yeah, it's actually
Awesome.
really good.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
I'm
was
gonna have to
interesting.
check that out. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
French toast and I love diners. Diners are just the best.
And you would be surprised which diner was the best. This episode really, when I did the donut edition of Tasting and Rating last month, it wasn't a big shocker because I kind of knew where I was heading and I kind of knew who was going to win. I just hands down I knew. It's just there's no way I was going to
Yeah.
beat this donut. And Virgin Donuts is really they're top notch, right?
hmm
But with the diner edition here, and I'm going for French toast, I'm like, well, this could be interesting because there could be a lot of different ways to make French toast and a lot of different ways to
Yep.
present it. And it really, yeah, it was interesting.
That's so cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
well now I know what I'm gonna be checking out next.
And Steve posted on the comments like, now I'm hungry. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
hungry with the picture. Yeah. It had that effect. And I don't want to tell you which one won yet. And I don't want to spoil it
No,
because,
don't tell me. Don't tell me. Yeah, I'm gonna
yeah,
watch
because
it.
it's interesting where they were located. And you're going to be like, wow. You're gonna be like, wow. Oh, okay.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
amazing.
can't wait.
Yeah. So in the last few minutes here of our show, I just kind of I gravitated to when you made a comment and you were talking about morale. So give us a few minutes of what can we do to keep our morale going. I know it's one of your big things when you're coaching, right? You probably really talk about morale, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do. Um, well, it's a couple of things. Like one of the things I tell people is comparison is the thief of joy. And
Mm,
it's a saying that I come back to over and over again because you sort of start looking at everybody else's social media updates and it looks like their lives are amazing and they're totally killing it at whatever. And you start looking at your own dreary little life and thinking that you're a big loser and no one's ever going to like you or hire you or whatever. And yeah, I mean, you just can't go down the comparison road because you will just be so unhappy if you do that. And the truth is, as we all know, all that stuff we're seeing on social media is it's just a front. It's just a pathetic front that we're all putting up trying to act like stuff is different than it really is. So don't get sucked in by the comparison thing. Just keep working, keep chipping away at the progress that you can make and try to enjoy the journey. I mean, I know it's easier said than done, but um try to enjoy meeting people and being genuinely curious about them. And you'll be amazed at the things that can come out of that if you can get less fixated on a specific outcome of each interaction and we're curious about what people are up to. I mean, when you and I met, if we had been fixated on getting a particular result, I don't think we ever would have formed the rapport and relationship that we have, which has led to all kinds of cool things.
Yeah,
Um,
so true. Yeah. And it's cool, right? Because I started on Spotify, voice only, and now look, we are video,
yeah,
YouTube,
yeah,
and it's a big change really fast, you know?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. So those would be my big things. And like, and you got to follow your gut. I mean, I think that's the other thing. Like, people are going to tell you to do this and that and the other thing about your job search, but deep down, you're going to know what feels right to you and what doesn't feel right. Like, I'm over here talking about LinkedIn, but if your gut is telling you, I don't belong on LinkedIn, I'm in a type of industry that's not there, like, follow that. Like, don't listen to me, follow that, you know?
yeah. Follow it, reassess, a month or so down the road, see what's happening. If it's not happening, transition to something else and keep moving, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
But the
Exactly.
important thing is to keep moving, right? I mean, just keep moving, keep doing your thing, right? You know?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And there are so many people who are in these kinds of situations. We are all trying to figure out how to make it work. And there are all kinds of interesting uh interesting situations that people are forging for themselves, like unique paths that you wouldn't have pictured a month ago or 6 months ago or a year ago. So it's a weird time, but that also means that there's a lot of opportunity right now to do things that couldn't have been done
yeah,
before. So
yeah,
just keep your eyes open and keep looking, and you'll find the right thing. I know that you will.
yeah.
Um,
That's
and
good advice.
call me or Chuck. We're around. You can always talk to us.
Absolutely. We said at the end of every show, I always, I read off Steve's phone number and he reads off mine. I'll read off your email
Yeah,
address, info@rachelgaddiscoaching.com. Go to her site. I'm going to put the link in the show notes so you can reach out to her,
please
and
do. I
yeah,
love being with
exactly.
you guys.
Yeah. I mean, we're here to help, and that's the thing. It's what I love to do is in more ways than one, I love to help because that's just what I do. I'm a big proponent of what do you need? I got you. you know?
I can say this is true for sure. I've known Chuck a while now, and that is the main character quality of Chuck for sure.
Yeah, and what I like about you is you are very headstrong. When you say you're doing something, it gets done. And I get those emails and I get those texts, and I tell you, it's just, you're doing good things. Keep going because people need to hear it.
Oh, I appreciate that,
Yeah,
man.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Rachel, thanks for coming on and standing in for Steve. This has been a great episode,
Thanks
great
for having
information.
me. I'll be back.
Yeah,
I know I'll be back, and I hope Steve has a great time
yeah,
wherever it is that he went. I hope it's amazing. And
yeah.
I'll come back and we'll get the whole band together for another call sometime.
Yeah, you got it. You got to find some time to come back on and join when Steve is with us, so we can really collaborate like we did the last time,
Oh,
because
it's so fun. Yeah, we'll do that
yeah,
for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, absolutely. I think, the more people we get on, the better because we really start putting our minds together and we can
Mhm.
really come up with some great ideas how to help people and really have a good show.
Yeah, yeah, I love that.
Awesome. Rachel, thanks again for coming on the Q.A.C. Team Podcast on Friday at 4. It's 4 o'clock somewhere at Steve's line.
That's right. It's 4 o'clock somewhere. I miss
4
my
o'clock
cue.
somewhere. Right.
Have a fantastic weekend, and to your
You
listeners
too, man.
too.
Enjoy the day. Hope you have doing something fun this weekend. It's supposed to be rainy here on the East Coast. I don't know about where everybody else is posting,
Yeah.
but
Whatever
it's
weather
going to
you
get rainy
have,
here.
though, enjoy it. Watch a movie inside if it's too terrible outside. You can
Yeah.
always do
Well, you
something.
know me. I'm on the road almost 24/7.
You
So
are, yeah.
I'm
We'll
on
have
the
to
road a
watch the
lot.
podcast to see where you go next.
Yeah. So next month is going to be really interesting because remember, we're coming into summertime now. So
Yep.
we're talking some goodies for summertime. So I'm excited.
Fun. I can't wait.
Yeah. Rachel, enjoy the rest of the day. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you later.
Sounds good. Bye.
Take care. Take care, everybody.
You've been watching the Friday at 4 podcast series with your host Charles Luttrell and co-host Steve Kent. Thanks for watching.